And what accent you think is the most difficult to understand so far from the different countries that you have visited?
hmm Um, Probably Dominican.
The Dominican,
Yeah, they speak rapid, man. It's tough.
there we do.
Yeah, probably Dominican. When I first got to the last time I came to Colombia, when I first got here, I wasn't really understanding anything. I found it hard, but now the longer time that I've been here, I'm starting to like pick up on the accent and the way they speak, so it's not as bad. So I'd have to give it to Dominican. What do you think is the hardest Spanish accent to understand?
For me, it's kind of been changing, but at the moment, I would say the Cuban accent is the most difficult to understand.
Yeah, I
But
hear
that's
that.
also because like I just met Cubans for the first time in my life last year. So I started
hmm
to hear their accent. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't understand anything. So I'm like, oh, this is another accent I have to get, adapted to. Because first, like 2 years
Yeah.
ago, it was a Dominican accent for me. I didn't understand, 98% of what they were saying. But now it's gotten a
hmm
little bit easier. Now with the Cuban accent, it's like, I'm going back to zero, not to start learning all over again.
Yeah.
And yeah, have you found that it's like the accents are very different, or for you do they all just seem kind of similar?
So when I was first speaking Spanish, I couldn't tell any accents. But now I say that my Spanish is somewhat decent. Yeah, I can definitely pick up on accents a lot quicker. Like I can hear an Argentinian, I can hear a Spanish speaking person.
Mm,
Just little things, the different, even like Colombians or particularly in Medellin, like the way how their Spanish flows. Yeah, there's definitely an accent. I'm starting
okay.
to pick up on it a lot more.
Is there a specific accent that you use when you speak?
It's probably I've heard it's like somewhat Spanish, but some like Spanish from Spain and somewhat just quite neutral at the same time.
At the same time, is there any accent that you would like to learn, like to speak with?
Um, not really, but I do really like the Argentinian accent. I think that sounds quite cool.
Argentinian accent. Why is that?
Yeah, I like the way how everything is like partial, and it just sounds like very kind of endearing in a way. All the
Mm,
double L's and stuff that's like shift sounds,
yeah.
and it's cool. They got their own thing going as well in terms of their slang. Like, I learned a lot. Like for example, instead of saying like super bien, they say re bien,
Okay.
or use boss instead of two. I don't know. It's quite cool.
Is their accent? I don't know. For me, I always thought their accent was like the most similar to the Spanish spoken in Spain. Because I feel like in Spain, don't they like the S kind of goes to like an SH almost sometimes? You know what I mean?
Sometimes, yeah, yeah, sometimes. Um, like when I was in Sevilla, for example, they didn't even pronounce S's. They just completely like block it. So
Really?
instead of like como estás, it's like como estás. I don't know, like
Oh,
really
wow.
short S's.
Okay, I didn't know that.
But I do like the Spanish accent too as well. I like the way that they like haces would be like que haces. I forgot what that's called, but like when they th stuff, that kind of
Yep, they
sound.
changed the C. Yeah, that's really interesting. I like that too. For me, it's still really difficult for me to understand Spanish speakers from Spain. It's really difficult for me.
Mm, yeah, I get that. What would you say is your favorite Spanish accent then? Or the accent that you would like to learn more, I guess.
Like more of, I would say still the Dominican one because I'm so fresh to
hmm
that, to like the country and to that accent. Dominican, and then after that probably Mexican, the Mexican
hmm
accent, primarily because it's crazy. Even though like I've lived in the U.S. my whole life, we're right next to Mexico. It's like for me, it's still very difficult to understand a lot of Mexicans, and I'm not really accustomed to that accent. It's hard for me to understand, and it's hard for me to like reproduce. Like for whatever reason, it's
Mm,
really hard for me to kind of mimic that accent. I don't know why.
hmm I was just gonna ask, like, whereabouts are you in the US? Are you close to Mexico?
Yeah, I'm in San Antonio right now, Texas.
Oh, okay, cool, yeah.
See, I'm right here. So, do you think it's hard for you to develop an accent?
It would take a lot of effort
Of ever?
because it's not very natural for me to, for example, be like, well, maybe sometimes I do it just because I was in Spain, but it's not natural for me to say que haces.
Okay,
So
not natural
it
for you to
takes
do
more. It's more of like a thought to say that, if that makes sense. Or like it
that.
wouldn't be natural for me to say pollo or tujo. I would have to think about that before I say that. So I guess it's more of a mental thing. But I think the more you're surrounded by, for example, like let's say you went to Colombia and you learned your Spanish from Colombians, so you're speaking with Colombians all the time because like as a non-native speaker, you don't have really an accent. You kind of just pick up the accent that's around you.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's probably why I keep stressing myself out so much when I can't when I can't like speak with an accent because it's like a
Hmm.
lot more complicated than just using my natural accent when I speak.
Yeah, exactly. But let's say you move to Mexico tomorrow and you're just surrounded by Mexicans, you'll get that accent in no time. I feel like.
I think so. So when you speak normally, you don't try to force an accent or anything like that. You speak with
No,
a
I
neutral
don't
accent.
think so. Like maybe I think like for the most part it's neutral with like sometimes I might do like the th thing just out of like maybe like an old habit. But I think also like the way I speak Spanish, I use more Spanish words.
Use more Spanish words.
Yeah, like Spanish from Spain. Sorry.
Hmm. Okay. What would you say? Which country has like the hardest words for you to learn? So this is a different question from beforehand. Because like for me, for example, last year for the first time, I started to dive more into the Spanish spoken in Spain, and the words that I saw
Hmm.
there were very different, of course, from like Dominican Spanish or Mexican Spanish. Like the words are really different. So it's like really hard for
Yeah.
me to actually learn them. Like even like the city names and yeah, it was like really difficult.
Hmm. Um, maybe Argentina because they have words that are very different to Spanish Spain, like colectivo, which is like bus, but you wouldn't say that in I never come across that in Spanish from Spain or
You said
um
colectivo is box.
yeah, I think it was bus
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I got you. That's different.
or really random words. I'm trying to think of like some other ones. I know there's some more. Can't think. My mind's gone blank. But I know there was so many words that I kept on coming across in Argentina that were just the most basic stuff, but
Hmm.
I'd never heard of it before, so I just wouldn't have known. I'm gonna see if I can just pull up some really quickly. Yeah, boludo for sure, which is like they say it says dude here. Buena onda, good vibes.
The,
No, there was definitely like some really common words that I'd see on the menu and be like, I don't know what this is.
uh-huh.
But then yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's crazy.
just wasn't used to it.
you know, like Sevilla for me is like Sevilla. I'm like, what is Sevilla? Like it's like just the city names in themselves were like really confusing me.
Really.
Yeah, it was strange.
Hmm. Would you say like you understand Spanish from Spain a bit better now though?
A little bit better.
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah, but like I haven't been consuming that much content from there, unfortunately.
Hmm.
So my listening comprehension is still pretty bad. I've been working on my
Hmm.
like the Spanish accent. I feel like that's actually been a little bit easier than increasing my listening comprehension, which is kind of strange. But I do like the accent a
Hmm.
lot.